After 15 years of grinding sacrifice in Dubai, Marissa Cruz, a Filipina domestic helper, finally comes home to her small coastal hometown in Batangas with savings meant to rebuild her family's life. But instead of the warm welcome she imagined, she finds betrayal. Her husband has squandered her remittances. Her childhood best friend now controls the local council through shady deals. And a mysterious fire has erased the land title to her ancestral home. What begins as heartbreak turns into a calculated plan for justice. The plane touched down in Manila just after dawn, the humid air seeping into the cabin even before the doors opened. Marissa Cruz pressed her forehead to the window and exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. 15 years of Dubai sandstorms and endless double shifts had finally led her back to this moment. She had counted each day in the tiny spiral notebook she kept beside her bed, a secret record of longing and of promises she planned to keep. Her phone buzzed the instant she switched it on. No messages from her husband Ramon, none from her son Paolo either. Just a string of automated promos from her mobile carrier welcoming her home. Marissa told herself it was the early hour, that they were probably still asleep. She slipped the phone back into her purse and followed the river of passengers through immigration, her heart pounding with excitement and unease. Outside the terminal, the chaos of Manila struck her all at once. The honking jeepneys, the vendors calling out steaming cups of Tahoe, the wet heat clinging to her clothes. She had dreamed of this, the familiar Tagalog chatter, the smell of roasted corn. But after so many years, the city felt strangely foreign, as if she were visiting a memory instead of her own country. A driver held a cardboard sign with her name, and she raised her hand. The small van would take her south to Batangas, to the seaside barangay where Ramon and Paolo waited. Where, she told herself firmly, they waited. The ride took 4 hours. Marissa stared out the window at the rice paddies flashing by, the carabao grazing ankle-deep in water. Her thoughts kept drifting to the blue envelope inside her handbag. Inside it was the cashier's check. 2 million pesos, the sum of countless sacrifices. That money was supposed to be their new beginning, the sari-sari store she and Ramon had planned, Paolo's college fund, the repairs to her parents' old house that had crumbled with each rainy season. When the van finally turned down the narrow road to their village, the late morning sun glared off the sea. Children played beside the banca boats. Neighbors she barely recognized looked up as she stepped out, some offering polite smiles, others merely curious stares. The house stood at the end of the lane, its paint peeling and the gate hanging slightly askew. Marissa's stomach tightened. Ramon wasn't there. The door swung open to reveal her sister Liza, eyes wide with surprise and something else Marissa couldn't name. 8. You're early, Liza said, wiping her hands on her skirt. Where's Ramon? And Paolo? Marissa forced a smile. Liza hesitated. They went to town. Paolo has basketball practice. Marissa stepped inside. The living room smelled of stale beer. Empty bottles cluttered the corner where her mother's altar once stood. The curtains were drawn, and the air felt heavy, almost sour. She swallowed hard. They knew I was coming, Marissa said quietly. I ate. Maybe you should sit first. There are things... The sound of a motorcycle engine cut Liza off. Ramon appeared in the doorway, sunglasses perched on his head. He looked older than the man Marissa had left behind, but not by 15 years. By disappointment. His smile was quick and thin. Maris, you're home! She stepped forward, arms open, but he only offered a handshake. The gesture stung more than she expected. Behind him, a young woman dismounted from the motorcycle, her long hair catching the sunlight. She carried a grocery bag and avoided Marissa's gaze. This is Clarice, Ramon said after an awkward pause. She helps around. Clarice gave a small nod. Marissa's chest tightened as she noticed the faint smear of lipstick on Ramon's collar. She forced her voice steady. Where is Paolo? At school, Ramon said. He's busy these days. The rest of the afternoon unfolded in fragments. Liza whispering warnings when Ramon stepped outside to take a call. Neighbors exchanging glances as Marissa walked by. Bits of conversation about late-night gambling sessions, about money borrowed from nearly everyone on the street. Each piece added weight to the sinking realization. The remittances she had wired every month, the careful savings she had protected for years, were gone. That evening, Marissa finally cornered Liza in the kitchen. Tell me everything, she demanded. Liza's eyes brimmed with reluctant pity. 8, he lost most of it months ago. Cards, cockfights, and then Clarice came. They say he tried to invest in some trucking business, but the words blurred. Marissa gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. Images of endless nights scrubbing floors in wealthy villas, of skipped meals and aching joints flooded her mind. All of it, for nothing. When Ramon returned, she confronted him. The argument erupted like a storm. He deflected, accused her of abandoning them, claimed he'd been pressured, that he could win it back. Marissa barely recognized the man standing in front of her, his voice a stranger's. Later, alone in the room that once held their wedding photo, Marissa stared at the envelope with the cashier's check. Her final savings still intact. She had planned to surprise Ramon with it. Now the idea felt like a cruel joke. Through the thin walls, she heard laughter, Ramon's and Clarice's drifting from the sala. Something inside her hardened, a quiet click like a lock falling into place. The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the pain, a sharper feeling began to grow. She had not survived 15 years of loneliness and humiliation abroad, only to be destroyed here. Marissa opened her notebook and turned to a blank page. She wrote a single line in bold, deliberate strokes. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Outside, the tide receded with a low hiss, as if the sea itself was holding its breath. I came back to Manila under the cover of night, the airport lights bleeding into the damp air like halos of broken promises. For 11 years, I'd worked in Dubai, counting every sunrise, every coin, and every heartbeat as if it could somehow buy me a future. But futures are slippery. They vanish in a blink, or in the silence of a single unanswered call. My name is Marisol Cruz, though most people at the hotel where I cleaned luxury suites called me Mary. I used to smile at the sound. Now it feels like a name I borrowed from someone else, a woman who once believed that hard work guaranteed love and loyalty. The plane's wheels hit the runway with a jolt, snapping me into the present. I hadn't told anyone I was coming home, not my husband, not even my younger brother, Carlo, who used to text me every payday. I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes before anyone had a chance to hide it. For months, I'd sensed something wrong. It started with Daniel's late replies to my messages. My husband had always been talkative, a man who flooded me with photos of our daughter Leah, who told long stories about the neighbors' gossip. Then his words shrank to single lines. Busy, tired, battery low. I knew the rhythm of his heart, and this was not it. When Carlo finally sent a cryptic message, "8A, we need to talk. Things are different now. I booked my ticket." I didn't ask what he meant. Some truths you have to touch yourself, even if they burn. The taxi ride to our old neighborhood in Quezon City felt like drifting through a half-remembered dream. Neon lights flickered over wet pavement. Vendors grilled I saw in smoky corners. The city smelled of rain and diesel, of stories layered like the billboards overhead. I pressed my forehead to the window and whispered a prayer I wasn't sure I believed anymore. Our house appeared at the end of the street, smaller than I remembered, as if it had been exhaling all these years. The paint peeled like dead skin. The garden I once tended had turned to weeds. A motorcycle was parked near the gate, a brand Daniel never mentioned buying. My pulse quickened. I walked to the door, suitcase wheels rattling on the cracked path. From inside came music, low but insistent, and a woman's laugh, bright, young, unmistakable. My fingers trembled around the keys I still carried, but I didn't use them. Instead, I knocked once, sharp as a gunshot. The door opened to a girl I'd never seen before. She was in her early 20s, hair damp from a shower, wearing one of Daniel's old shirts. Her eyes widened as she took me in. Can I help you?" she stammered. Behind her, Daniel appeared, barefoot, shirtless. The color drained from his face like water from a cut vein. "Marisol," he whispered, my name tasting of guilt. For a moment, no one moved. The rain outside filled the silence, 1,000 tiny knives against the tin roof. I saw every detail with cruel clarity. The gold chain on Daniel's neck that I'd saved 3 months' wages to buy, the lipstick smudge on his collarbone, the startled flicker in his eyes that wasn't love but calculation. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice calm and cold enough to scare myself. The girl stepped back. I'm just a friend." Daniel swallowed hard. "Mary, listen." "No," I held up a hand. "Don't call me that. My name is Marisol." Behind me, a neighbor's gate creaked. Curtains shifted in nearby windows. Our little street loved a drama, and tonight it had one delivered to the doorstep. I walked inside, dragging my suitcase like a weapon. The living room smelled of cheap perfume and stale beer. My framed family photos were gone from the wall, replaced by abstract prints I didn't recognize. Leah's toys were nowhere in sight. "Where is our daughter?" I asked. Daniel's throat worked. "She's asleep." "At my mother's." "Convenient." I clenched my fists until my nails bit skin. "Good. She won't hear this." The young woman, her name I later learned was Bianca, mumbled something about leaving, but I blocked the doorway. "Stay," I said. "You might as well hear the truth too." Bianca froze, eyes darting between us. Daniel reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I hissed. "Not with those hands." I thought of every overtime shift I'd worked. Every blister on my palms from scrubbing marble floors so that Daniel could finish school, so we could buy this house, so Leah could have the future we dreamed of. And this was what he did with it. A stranger in my bed. A lie in every message, but anger was only the surface. Beneath it, something colder stirred, a resolve that frightened me more than heartbreak. I smiled, slow and sharp. "You think you've won, Daniel? That you can replace me, spend my money, and I'll just fade away?" He flinched. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like? Tell me. Pretend I'm a fool a little longer." Bianca shifted uncomfortably. You should stay," I said again, softer this time. "You need to understand the kind of man you've chosen." The girl's eyes filled with unease. She looked at Daniel as if seeing him for the first time. "Good. Let the cracks show." I turned and walked toward the bedroom. Our bedroom. It reeked of betrayal. Clothes littered the floor. My own wedding photo lay face down on the nightstand. Something in me snapped. From my purse, I pulled the envelope of cash I'd withdrawn at the airport. My entire savings, wrapped in rubber bands. Daniel's eyes lit up when he saw it, reflexive greed flickering across his face. I held the envelope over the small flame of a scented candle on the dresser. His voice cracked. "Marisol, don't." The rubber melted, the bills blackened and curled. I dropped the burning wad into a metal wastebasket. Fire roared to life, eating away a decade of sacrifice. Bianca gasped. "Are you crazy?" "Maybe," I said, "but this money was never for you." Daniel lunged for the basket, but I blocked him. "Let it burn," I whispered. "Let everything you stole turn to smoke." The flames licked higher, reflecting in the window like a second sunset. The smoke alarm wailed, shrill and accusing. I felt a strange peace settle over me. "This is only the beginning," I told him. "You don't know what I've learned in 11 years abroad? You don't know who I've become." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, neighbors calling the barangay for help. Daniel's face drained of color. He realized, perhaps too late, that the quiet, obedient wife he remembered no longer existed. I stepped out of the room, leaving him to choke on the smoke of his own betrayal. The night air outside tasted of rain and ash as I walked away, past the watching neighbors, past the taxi still idling at the corner. I didn't look back. I had no plan yet, only a promise forming like steel in my chest. This wasn't the end of our story. It was the spark before the blaze. The smell of smoke clung to my clothes as I left the street behind. Rain slicked my hair to my face, but I kept walking, past the curious neighbors, past the tricycles idling for late-night fares. Their stares didn't matter. Only the slow, deliberate rhythm of my footsteps did. Each step was a vow. I booked a room in a small hotel near Cubao, one of those anonymous places where no one asks questions. The receptionist barely glanced at me, sliding a key across the counter. I liked that, being unseen for a while. In the room, I peeled off my damp blouse, sat on the bed, and stared at my phone. Messages from Daniel flashed across the screen. "Where are you? Let's talk. I can explain." I deleted them all. Explanation was a language I no longer spoke. Instead, I called Carlo. My brother answered on the second ring, his voice rough with sleep. "Ate, you're back?" "I'm here," I said. "You knew." A long silence. "I tried to warn you." "Where's Leah?" "With Mama." "Safe." "Yes. But Ate, you should know things with Daniel." I saw enough. Carlo exhaled, a sound like a door finally closing. "What do you want to do?" "Protect Leah," I said. "Everything else can wait." We met the next morning at a small carinderia, the kind we'd eaten at as kids. The air smelled of fried garlic and hot oil. Carlo looked older than I remembered, lines carved by worry and too many double shifts. He reached for my hand across the table. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't be. Tell me everything." And he did. Daniel had stopped visiting our mother months ago. Money I sent for Leah's schooling had disappeared. New clothes, a secondhand car, nights out that stretched until dawn. And Bianca, young, pretty, reckless, was only the most visible betrayal. There were whispers of small loans, of gambling, of debts owed to people who don't send polite reminders. I listened without interrupting, each word another stone in the wall I was building inside. By the time Carlo finished, I felt strangely calm. Anger was a fire. Resolve was ice. Ice lasts longer. We need proof, I said. Bank statements? Receipts? Anything. Carlo nodded. I can get some. I still have a friend at the barangay hall who owes me a favor. Good. And Leah? She misses you. She thinks you're still in Dubai. My chest ached. I'll see her soon. But not yet. That night I lay awake, replaying every memory of Daniel. The late-night calls when he begged me to take the uhi, job abroad, the promises we made to each other, the lullabies we sang to Leah. Each recollection was a blade I turned carefully, refusing to let it cut too deep. I needed clarity, not nostalgia. The following days blurred into a quiet hunt. Carlo brought me copies of bank withdrawals, large amounts timed to my remittances. I tracked the motorcycle to a name I didn't recognize, a small-time moneylender known for violent collectors. Pieces of a puzzle formed a picture uglier than I'd imagined. Daniel wasn't just unfaithful, he was desperate. I moved carefully. I visited Leah in secret, watching from a distance as she played outside my mother's house. Her laughter was a balm and a torment. I wanted to run to her, but I waited. Daniel still believed he controlled the narrative, and that was my weapon. Let him think I'd vanished into the night. One evening, as dusk bled across the city, I finally called him. We need to talk, I said. Tomorrow, alone. His relief was audible. Yes, please. I can explain everything. Tomorrow, I repeated, and hung up. We met in a quiet cafe near the old university where we'd once spent afternoons dreaming of a shared future. The irony wasn't lost on me. Daniel arrived looking frayed, eyes darting. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. Marisol, I made mistakes. Not mistakes, choices. He flinched but pressed on. I was lonely. You were gone so long. I didn't know how to handle. Don't insult me with cliches. He lowered his gaze. I'll fix it. I'll leave her. We can start over. I studied him, noting the sheen of sweat on his temple, the twitch of his jaw. Where's the money, Daniel? The tuition for Leah? The savings for the house repairs? His silence was answer enough. I leaned forward. You owe people, don't you? He swallowed hard. It's under control. No, I said softly. It isn't. His eyes flicked to the door, calculating escape. I let him sit with his fear before sliding a small envelope across the table. Inside were photocopies of the bank statements, the gambling IOUs Carlo had uncovered. His face drained of color. I could take this to the police, I said, to your mother, to every creditor who wants a piece of you. You wouldn't, he whispered. Wouldn't I? You don't know me anymore. He reached out again, desperation replacing bravado. Marisol, please, for Leah. For Leah? I echoed. That's why I'm giving you one chance. You'll sign over the house to her name, all of it. You'll leave the city for 6 months, no contact except through a lawyer. Do that, and I stay silent. He stared, stunned. You're blackmailing me? I'm protecting my daughter, I said. Decide. I stood and walked away, leaving him with the weight of the envelope and the choice it contained. Outside, the night air felt sharp, electric. Revenge wasn't a single act. It was a slow, deliberate art. The next morning, a lawyer, one I'd quietly hired, called to confirm that Daniel had signed the papers. Fear makes men efficient. I felt no triumph, only the steady hum of purpose. This was merely the first step, but betrayal rarely ends neatly. A week later, Carlo rushed into my hotel room breathless. 8, he said. Daniel's in trouble. The moneylender, he didn't leave town. They're looking for him, and for you. My heartbeat slowed, then steadied. I had anticipated this. Let them look, I said. It's time they hear my side of the story. Carlo's eyes widened. What are you planning? Something Daniel will never forget, I replied, voice like steel. Outside, Manila pulsed with neon and rain. The city itself a co-conspirator. The game was far from over. I didn't sleep the night Carlo warned me. Instead, I sat by the window of the hotel, watching Quezon Avenue glow with the restless lights of jeepneys and late-night diners. Somewhere out there, Daniel was running from the debts he had created, dragging danger behind him like a ragged shadow. I felt no pity. Choices have prices. By dawn, I had a plan. First, I called attorney Ramos, the quiet but sharp lawyer who had helped with the house transfer. "The creditors will come after him," I said. "They might come after me. They have no claim on you," she replied calmly. "The house is legally Leah's now, but if you want a protective order, I can file today." "Do it," I said. "And one more thing. Can we freeze any joint accounts?" "They're already under your sole control," she assured me. "Your diligence earlier made it simple. When the paperwork was done, I finally visited Mama's house in daylight. Leah was playing jackstones on the porch, her dark hair tied back with the pink ribbon I'd mailed from Dubai months ago. The sound of the jacks clicking on the cement cracked something inside me. I walked toward her and she looked up, blinking, then screamed, "Mama!" and ran into my arms. Her warmth melted the icy wall I'd built around myself. For a moment, I was only a mother, breathing in the scent of my daughter's hair, promising silently that she would never be hurt like I had been. Mama stepped outside, tears brimming. "Anak," she whispered, pulling me close. "You came home." "I'm here now," I said, holding both of them. "And I'm not leaving again." For 2 days I stayed there, letting the small rhythms of family life soothe the raw edges of my anger. We cooked sinigang, told stories late into the night, and for a few brief hours, it almost felt like the years apart had never happened. But the outside world did not rest. Rumors of Daniel's troubles drifted in. Men in dark jackets asking questions at the Sari Sari stores. A scuffle near a betting den where someone swore they'd seen him. On the third evening, as the sky turned the color of bruised plums, a battered sedan pulled up in front of the house. 2 men stepped out, both broad-shouldered, eyes hard. My pulse quickened, but I walked out to meet them before they could knock. "Good evening," I said, steady as stone. "We're looking for Daniel Reyes," the taller one said. His voice was polite, but his knuckles were scarred. "He doesn't live here," I replied. "And if you have business with him, I suggest you speak to his lawyer." I handed them Attorney Ramos's card. "Anything else?" They exchanged glances, surprised. "You know where he is?" "I don't," I said truthfully. "But I know the law, and I know my daughter is asleep inside. So unless you have papers, you leave." A long pause. Then the taller man nodded once. "Ma'am," he said, and they returned to the car. When the taillights vanished, Carlo emerged from the side gate, gripping a length of pipe. 8. You're fearless." "I'm just done being scared," I said, but Daniel was not done. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then answered. His voice came through the line, ragged and low. "Marisol, please. They're after me. I need help." I said nothing. "They'll kill me," he whispered. "I have no one else." "You had me," I finally said. "You chose to throw that away." "I was stupid. Please, just let me see Leah once. I'll disappear after." For a heartbeat, I wavered. Then I remembered every remittance slip, every lonely night in Dubai, every lie. "No," I said softly. "You don't get to use her to save yourself." He tried again, voice cracking. "I love you." The words once would have shattered me. Now they felt like dust. I ended the call. The next morning, I visited the precinct, filed a formal statement about the threats, and gave them Daniel's photo and the numbers he'd used. The officer nodded, professional but curious. "He's mixed up with serious people," he warned. "Best to keep your doors locked." "I already do," I said. Weeks passed. Life began to settle into something like normal. Leah enrolled in a new school. I found work at a local clinic, my nursing skills honed overseas, now serving neighbors and old classmates. Sometimes I caught whispers of Daniel, a sighting in Cavite, a rumor in Caloocan, but they were like distant storms, nothing more. Then, one humid evening in December, as Christmas lights twinkled across the barangay, a final letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a single page in Daniel's handwriting. "Marisol, you were right. I lost everything. But you gave Leah a future even if you think I don't deserve her. I'm leaving Manila tonight, maybe for good. Take care of our daughter. I'm sorry for everything." I read it twice, feeling no triumph, only a strange, quiet release. The war was over, not with a dramatic confrontation, but with silence and departure. I walked outside where Carlo and Mama were stringing lanterns across the gate. The night air smelled of roasted chestnuts and rain on warm asphalt. Leah danced in circles with the neighbor kids, her laughter carrying into the dark. Carlo looked up. "News?" I handed him the letter. He read it, then nodded. "It's done." "Yes," I said. "It's done." But inside I knew the real victory wasn't Daniel's retreat. It was this moment, standing with my family, free of fear, free of the weight of someone else's choices. Revenge had begun as fire, turned to ice, and ended as something quieter and stronger. Freedom. I joined Leah beneath the lanterns, lifting her into my arms as fireworks cracked faintly over the city. She pressed her forehead to mine and whispered, "Mama, are we safe now?" I smiled, a deep, certain smile. "Yes, Anak," I said. "We are finally home." The night sky bloomed with light, and for the first time in years, I felt the future open wide, unbound and ours alone. December settled over Manila with the heavy scent of roasted chestnuts and paroles glowing in every window. I thought Daniel's letter would be the last echo of the life I had left behind. But quiet never lasts long in a city that hums like a restless heart. 3 nights before Christmas, a knock rattled Mama's gate long after the neighbors had gone to bed. Carlo and I exchanged a look, the kind we had learned as children when something felt wrong. I motioned for him to stay with Leah and stepped outside. A man stood under the yellow streetlight, his rain-soaked jacket plastered to his frame. I recognized him at once, one of the debt collectors who had come weeks earlier. He held no weapon, only a crumpled envelope. "He told me to give you this," the man said, voice rough. "Said you'd know." I opened the gate a fraction. "Where is he?" "Gone," the man replied. "Maybe the port. Maybe farther. Don't ask me." He handed over the envelope and disappeared into the dripping night before I could speak again. Inside, I unfolded a single sheet of paper. It was another note from Daniel, shorter this time. "They don't believe I'm gone. They'll come for what I owe. Protect Leah. I'm sorry." I felt the weight of it settle in my chest. Not fear, calculation. If the collectors believed Daniel still had access to me, they would come, and I would be ready. The next morning I met with Attorney Ramos again. "They have no legal claim," she confirmed, eyes scanning the new letter. "But men like that don't care about papers." "I need a stronger shield," I said. "Something public," her brow furrowed. "You want to bring this into the light?" "Yes," I said. "It's time." Within days, a story appeared in a local paper. OFW mother returns, secures home for daughter amid husband's debts. Ramos had written it carefully, highlighting Leah's legal ownership of the house and my cooperation with authorities. It was part truth, part warning, a signal to anyone watching that I was not prey. The effect was immediate. 2 more visits from the debt collectors ended with them leaving empty-handed after barangay officials reminded them that harassment would land them in jail. Their hard stares lingered, but they did not return. For a while, life smoothed into something almost ordinary. I worked longer hours at the clinic. Leah flourished at school, her drawings bright with the colors of a childhood finally free of shadows. Mama smiled more often. Even Carlo allowed himself laughter. Then, on New Year's Eve, just as fireworks began to splinter the sky, my phone vibrated with an international number I did not know. I nearly ignored it. Some instinct made me answer. "Marisol?" The voice was Daniel's, hoarse, thin, but unmistakably alive. I stepped into the quiet of the backyard, fireworks bursting like distant artillery. "Where are you?" "Thailand, for now." He coughed, a dry rasp. I needed to hear Leah's voice. "She's asleep." A pause. "I'm sick," he said finally. "Nothing fatal, just worn out. I can't come back." I closed my eyes. "Then don't. I deserve that," he admitted. "But listen, the men who chased me, they might look for you again. I left them nothing, but they won't believe it. Be careful." "You should have thought of that before," I said, though my voice softened despite myself. Another long silence. Then, "Tell her I love her, even if she never knows why I'm gone." The line clicked dead. I stayed outside until the last firework faded. I felt no urge to cry. Some wounds stopped bleeding long before the scar shows. Weeks turned into months. Daniel's warnings proved true in small ways. Strangers sometimes loitered near the clinic, and a motorbike followed Carlo once. But the barangay patrol kept them at bay. My story in the paper had made me a small local symbol of resilience, and that spotlight became an armor I hadn't expected. Opportunities bloomed. A Manila hospital offered me a supervisory position. Community leaders invited me to speak to returning OFWs about financial independence. Each step forward was another quiet act of triumph. One humid afternoon, after a seminar, a young nurse approached me. Ma'am Marisol, she said shyly. Your story? It gave me courage to leave a toxic relationship. Salamat po. Her words pierced deeper than any headline. I had set out to protect my daughter and reclaim my dignity. Somehow, I had also given strangers permission to protect themselves. That night, I sat on the porch with Mama and Carlo, watching Leah chase fireflies. The air buzzed with the sweet scent of sampaguita. For the first time, I realized revenge had long since transformed into something else. It wasn't about punishing Daniel anymore. It was about proving, to him, to myself, to anyone who doubted, that a woman who refuses to break becomes unassailable. I looked up at the spattered stars and thought of Daniel on some foreign shore, a ghost of the man I had loved. Perhaps he would survive, perhaps not. Either way, the power he once held over me had dissolved into the warm Manila night. Leah ran to me, face alight. Mama, look! Fireflies! She cupped her small hands and a single glowing insect pulsed between her fingers. Beautiful, I whispered, kissing her hair. Just like you. As the firefly lifted into the dark, I felt a deep, certain peace settle in my bones. A quiet ending, stronger than any act of vengeance.